Another edition of 100% Canucks. John Shannon here. Landon Ferraro will be along, as will Mason Raymond, who was a part of that team that went to the Stanley Cup in 2011. Was one of the guys that really, in many ways, was part of the rebirth of the Canucks, with Alain Vigneault as the coach, Mike Gillis, Lawrence Gilman, who ran the hockey operations side of Vancouver in the late decade of the first decade of the 2000s. And it was a fun team to watch, a fast team to watch, which was Mason Raymond's great skill. Another thing to know is that we've kind of lucked out is that, we talked to Adrian Aucoin. He played in the Olympics, and so did Mason Raymond. Mason was part of that 2018 Olympic team that won the bronze medal, a team that a lot of people in our country seem to have forgotten. It wasn't the NHLers. NHLers were supposed to go. They decided not to. Willie Desjardins, the former Canuck coach, coached the team. Mason Raymond, Derek Roy, a few other NHLers, Rene Bourque, were on the team that took home a medal from the Olympic Winter Games in South Korea. So without further ado, Landon will be by, as will Mason Raymond, on this edition of 100% Canucks.
I won't keep you long. Darren Millard with a tip for everyone who loves great hockey podcasts like this one. John Shannon and I host the OG of 100% Hockey, coming your way multiple times a week. The guest list is the best you will find. Multiple shows a week ensures you won't miss out on any news, and we dig even deeper into the biggest stories around the NHL. Most of our guests are also friends, so I promise there'll be more conversation beyond the X's and the O's. John really does get bored with that after a while. So join us for 100% Hockey. The name says it all. Subscribe now while you enjoy thinking about it, and enjoy.
This is 100% Canucks on YouTube and all the podcast platforms, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast. Pleased to be joined today by Mason Raymond, former Vancouver Canuck, former Calgary Flame, and a guy who was part of a pretty good Stanley Cup playoff run way back when for the Canucks. Mason, thanks for the time.
Hey, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
So I've got to ask you, I was talking to somebody who was used to be with the organization. They were talking about the training camp that you and the Canucks had, and you blew them out of the water. In fact, there were two of you that blew them out of the water. I think it was Jannik Hansen was there with you. You had a great camp. Did you get a sense that you were going to get a chance with the big club right away?
It's funny. So many fond memories of that camp and what it looked like. And, those were the days I went to college. I played at Minnesota Duluth and really had no contact or very little with an NHL club, and was drafted by Vancouver at that time, besides, dialect, but never went to their camps or, did a little bit of spring stuff with them, but never really on ice. So the game's changed a lot since those days, but I remember that camp very vividly. It was in Victoria at Bear Mountain, and kind of a funny small story. It was the first time I ever had sushi in my life too. So farm kid from Alberta, that was a big thing for me. But I remember going into rookie camp there. It was 4 days. It was grueling. But I remember one reporter saying, I don't remember who it was, but he kind of thought, I was a man among boys the way I was playing. And, I was really proud how I played in that, in the rookie camp. I felt good. I was dominant. I made a name for myself, and I don't think a lot of people knew who I was at that point. I mean, sure, I played college hockey, but I really think there was no expectation for me to make that team that year out of camp. So it really started there, and then grew into main camp. And I remember getting out at main camp, and one of my good attributes, I guess, was skating, and being in shape was something I always prided me on. And I remember, AV at that time, we skated hard. And I remember Marcus Naslund, some of those guys being like, "Kid, slow down out here. You're making us look kind of silly." So, but I look back at that. I was very proud of that, and put my name, I guess, a little bit on the map, and gave myself a chance at making the club.
So, you have that great camp, but just before, the finishing of the year before, when you signed and left school, was that a tough decision? Was that the Canucks, I don't want to say pushing, but, really telling you you're ready or you were ready?
Probably more myself in my mind. Again, I think everybody grows up dreaming of playing the NHL, and really didn't know what that side of the life was like. As I said, we weren't really able to attend much camps or do a lot of things, being a college player at that point. But yeah, I think it was a mutual thing. We both agreed, hey, okay, let's take this next step. Let's see what it was. I think if I had to be real with myself, I don't know the answers from obviously the management side, but I mean, did a lot with Stan Smeal and everything at that time, but was probably say, hey, let's get this kid in the American League for a year and see if he can improve and get himself ready for that next jump. But again, had a great camp, and that really put me out to set. My focus was always the NHL. Was never going to play in the American League and try to set yourself up for a year there. My focus was the NHL and sticking there and playing there.
How old were you when the focus became the NHL? Was that 8 or 9? Or, I mean, how old were you when you said,
no,
I want to play in the NHL?
Sure. I think the dream was always there. Being an Alberta kid growing up on a farm, playing on the pond, it was always Game 7, Stanley Cup Finals. That was always the dream. I think when it became a little more like, hey, this could become a career path and something I could look into was when I went to junior hockey in Camrose, and ultimately is when I got drafted. I was a late mature. I was a late bloomer. I have a 13-year-old boy now that's, way bigger than I was at that age. And I really didn't start growing and maturing till I was, 16, 17, and I was a late bloomer. But, my junior A days with Camrose, got drafted by Vancouver. I think that's when things for me a little was like, oh, like you could see it. There was a tangible, like, oh, I'm drafted. There's something there. And it really grew from there. And I took those steps, I guess, necessary. And the college route worked really well for me. I'm a huge believer in getting your education for one, but number two, I think I needed that time to mature a bit and hit the gym a bit and do some more weights and those sort of things. So
did you go to your draft?
Went ahead. My year was a odd year. I was drafted the same year as Sidney Crosby, and that was the lockout year, and was never expected to go in the first round. Didn't really know where I was going to go at that time, but I remember being at a place we have in BC and kind of getting a call from a friend actually, and we didn't have internet at the place and got that thing. But so never did go to the draft because that was that lockout year. Just the first rounders kind of got picked.
So you have a great camp, and then you end up making the team, and you get an assist in your first game, but then you go the next 8 pointless and get sent down. Like you have this incredible high of, you want to make the team, but it's hard to expect it. You make it, and then you're down. What's going through your head then, and what were they telling you when you're going down?
For sure. I think just kind of a funny story on this. At least I smile about it now. I never did in the moment, but I made the team out of camp. Pretty excited. I remember my last exhibition game was in Edmonton. Played on the Sedin's line, and I think I had a couple points, and even a goal or something. So I made the team out of camp, and game 1 against the San Jose Sharks, and Joe Thornton, the big names, Jake Chichu was all that thing. So I started first period with the Twins. Second period, I was second line. By the third period, I was third line and fourth line. And the game lost. We got an assist, and whatever the game was, whatever. But game 2 was in Calgary, hometown, and I was a healthy scratch. So I started game 1 from first line to a healthy scratch in your hometown. And anyway, so things changed pretty quick there. And again, I was young. I was learning lots, and the next 8 games didn't probably go as planned, whether you judge them by points or not. But I remember them saying, hey, we're going to send you down for a little bit. My mentality, I remember taking off the tarmac in Vancouver being like, I'm coming back. This is where I want to be, and this is where I feel I belong. And, went down there and I think did well enough in Winnipeg to get another look and ultimately, get back up not shortly after that.
Yeah, like you came back up in December and you didn't touch the minors for like another 8 years till the end. And was it something that clicked down there, or was it what you just said, like as you're getting sent down, being like, this isn't for me, like I'm not accepting this?
Both. Things happen for a reason in life. I have, as I've gotten older, I figured that out. And a good friend of mine is Brendan Morrison. Everybody knows him ever so well. BMO got an injury as well that kind of put him out for a while, and that gave me that roster spot to get back up there as well. So again, in my mind and my mindset, as I said early on, I was always an NHL player, and that's where I wanted to be, and that's what my goal was. So I think that was a key, was having that focus. But having that opportunity, because Brennan did get injured, also gave me that thing. I never really looked back on that. I did touch back into the minors later in my career, but those were under some different circumstances and the way that worked. But I was fortunate enough to spend most of my career in the National Hockey League for sure.
We'll get back to talk about what you did and everything like that. But has Morrison taken you fishing yet?
We did go on a fishing trip many years ago now. We were in interior BC and did a fishing trip, and we talked about that and how that worked. And Brendan's a good buddy of mine. He lived in Calgary here for years.
He's an internet star. Come on.
He's all over. He's he's a guy I hugely respect for many different reasons, but we got a lot of commonalities, and place in Tofino where I don't have one out there, but I see him out there, and he's down in Detroit now, but I'm bugging him to move back to Calgary because I enjoy him as a person so much and like being around him.
So what was your strength when you were a regular in the NHL? What did you think you brought to the table and would convince your coaches of?
For me, back then, as I broke into the league back in kind of 07 area, 2007, was speed was one of my best assets. And, something that was I guess the skating side of me was something I excelled at. I mentioned growing up on a farm and getting out in the outdoor rink that my dad would make or on the outdoor pond. And, we worked on tight turns. We worked on quick feet, little things, that could help me be a little more elusive. And that was a big part of my game. Today's game, geez, everybody skates so well, right? You actually almost stick out if you don't. You need to skate to play. So that was a big part of it. I guess I had the offensive instincts and had that. You always want to be known as a good, well-rounded two-way player, right? But for me, when I excelled the most at the pro level was when I was playing in a top six role, and my best years were in Vancouver when I was playing that role and producing. So speed, and I guess that offensive side were the gifts that helped me during my time.
It's, like when you came into the league, that was, obviously I watched a ton of hockey when I was a little kid, but I was just entering my first year in Red Deer. And so I'm clearly really dialed in, watching a ton. And I loved watching you play, just how fast, Garland has a bit of your style in him. You're talking the tight turns, the elusiveness, and kind of that desire. But it's funny. I asked you before we got on because you were one of my favorite players on the Canucks at the time, yet your cousin was my roommate on the road, J.D. Watt. I had no idea that was your cousin, so it kind of makes sense. There's a bit of a tie there, but again, the drive that you had when you played with it, did you have that right from when you started? You were just head down straight, you were going to find a way to the net?
Yeah, I guess I wish I did more of it, or I was told I should have done more of that, or everybody should have to get to the net. But, again, it was something that gave me or felt, an edge, if you will, or that's what made me who I could be. And when I was carrying the puck and holding the puck more, that made me more successful, right from young age, getting into the pro level. So, it was just ironic, I guess. It was something we worked on as a kid all the time, was tight turns and moving. And it's ironic where the game has moved, and seeing these guys that skating coaches are not uncommon. I'm not saying I had a skating coach. My dad was my coach at that time as far as just some skating, but that's everything now. If you can skate, you can play, and we continue to watch it every day. The Olympics, it's fun to watch. It's a pace of play, but for me, that was an asset that, as I said, I mentioned many times, that I just tried to use to my advantage.
How much would you like to be playing now?
Yeah.
If you could start your career now.
Yeah, it's funny. Again, the guys I hang out here now are, because I live in Calgary, is the Flames alumni. It's the Joel Ottos, the Jamie McCowans, the Theo Fleury's, Lion McDonald's, and we do the odd alumni skate. And these guys are still hanging up the ice on their sticks and clutching and grabbing. And, it's changed a lot since I played and to today's game. So I've been told that before, and the game's more exciting to watch. You're seeing that athleticism, the speed, all the creativity that's with it. So in my mind, I still believe I could play. Clearly, I've been out for 8 years now, and time has gone by. But it'd be fun. Hey, again, it's changed, and but no, I think it's played more towards my style in today's game for sure.
I look at your stats, and it's that those are going to live forever, so they they don't go away. Can you explain the year that you scored 25?
Yeah, stats don't lie, right?
No.
They're etched forever. But the year Ryan Kessler was my centerman. I played a lot with Michael Samuelson on that line, and things clicked. For me, you learn so much outside of hockey nowadays, and what it was. And my focus when I played was hockey for 10 straight years. And it's still a huge part of my life with my son and everything else. But I guess where I'm going with this is the parallels between business and the parallels between relationships, and things worked, and I had confidence. And when you're playing with confidence, or you have confidence in life, a lot of good things happen. Was very fortunate enough to be on great teams in Vancouver for basically all 6 years. I'd say some injuries, things happen, but special teams is a big thing. I think I can contribute. Again, I'm speaking personally here on some of this. Is getting some power play time. If you're on the power play, you got to produce, and you got to make those things happen. Things went well. Staying healthy. I don't know off the top of my head. I think I played most of the games that year, if not 80 or something.
You played all of them.
Was all 82.
All of them.
So it helps when you play all the games, right? To put you in that position. So being healthy, good frame of mind, things clicked. Again, you play with some great players. Again, it sounds cliche, but really it's true. And had a lot of fun doing it. Those were great days. My fondest memories of playing really in the NHL for my 10 years. We're in Vancouver. We had some great teams, and personally was able to excel as well.
How great was the run in 11?
Yeah, that is something special. You always look back on your career and reflect, and I have zero regrets, not even really the word, but you look back, and that's still, it's like stats, they don't lie. That one still haunts me a little bit. Game 7, right, of Cup Finals, and I was watching that one from the sidelines with a broken back, but that Cup Finals was special. You go to round 1 against Chicago. That was being up 3-0, them tying it up 3-3, and then going into overtime. And Alex Burrows, again, one of my best friends to this day too, roommate for 4 years. Slays the dragon. That was something. You go into second round with Nashville, and then third round with San Jose, and then the battle we had with Boston. So that one stings to this day, and I honestly think it will always sting. It's that's what you live for, and it's something that's there. But what a run! And again, I broke my back in Game 6, right? So things change, and it's funny. In the moment, there was nothing worse, and after losing Game 7 as a team, there was nothing worse. But man, have I met some great people? Have I learned a lot about myself, the body, mechanically, how it works, and probably a better person from it, believe it or not, what I've been through and what I've learned from it. So I would have been okay to break my back and win the cup, but can't get them all.
So breaking, I just want to follow up on the adversity of the injury. Forced you to refocus, forced you to rethink things?
Yeah, from the game side, I'm not going to say it was a better thing from it, because it's before I broke my back, I had an MCL sprain in my first year and a few things and fingers and broke a thumb, but you almost thought you were invincible. And in the fact that you couldn't get injured. And if it was minimal, right? After an injury of that severity and what you have to go through and the gruelingness to come back from that was crazy. I mean, those were 2-a-days. I remember climbing the gross grind at 6 a.m. in the morning, 3 times a week, and working on form and, functionality with some great people that helped me along that way. But, it was probably tough on my mental side of the game, but I'm talking life as a whole, what I learned from that, and the people that support you. And again, the people I've met that I still see. I still come to Vancouver every 5-6 weeks and see a gentleman that's helped me immensely with that. Your family, what you go through. So again, what you reflect on and what you see from it, I think I'm a better person from it, believe it or not.
So, take away the injury, because obviously you just mentioned what you learned and had to go through with that. But with the playoff run that you had, well, the full season and the playoff run, I was lucky enough to win a Calder Cup in the minors. It's not a Stanley Cup, but it's still a long time. And for me, I learned how much farther I could push myself. What was something that you took out of that as a player that you're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that?
Yeah, no, great question. It's funny when you say that. As a whole, I think hockey took me to levels that as a human, I didn't even know I could get to, I guess. I got pushed beyond limits that I didn't even know I was capable of reaching. Being in the business world now and reading books and different things, you begin to understand that more. But I'm forever grateful for what hockey taught me and being able to, again, reach new levels of, again, thinking you were so tired and couldn't back check harder. Well, you still got capacity to do that, right? That's within your mental side. And what separates good from great, I believe, is right here in the mind, and that willingness and that want to do that. But to your point, you play a 82 game schedule and you go through 4 rounds and needing 16 wins. That's grueling. That is taxing on the body. And, everybody always thinks there's just the piece of the puzzle. Can the guy play hockey? And, of course that's important, but all those different pieces. Are you eating right, sleeping right? Are you a good human away from the rink? What do you do charity wise? You name it. There's just so much that I've been able to reflect on and see, but exact instance, I don't know, but pushing on different levels. And again, I was one of those guys that I pride myself, as I mentioned earlier, when we touched on training camp, was being in good shape. I remember running the grouse grind, and the only ones that really were able to beat me up there were the Twins. Those guys are still the champs of that and do that.
I live like 10 minutes from the grind. I haven't even looked at it since I retired.
I did that so many times, and when I broke my back, and I did it clearly when I was in normal working shape too. But the Twins, Rick Rypien and myself were kind of always the ones, and I pride myself on that. But those guys pushed me to get to those areas. And as I said, I'm forever grateful for those kind of experiences and those memories that taught me so much about hockey, but life in general.
By the way, I think Daniel and Henrik are still beating the prospects up in July.
Yeah, I believe it. Start.
I believe it. Yeah, it's again, if you look at those guys who've retired since their career, how they still take are in great shape and take care of themselves, and a unique breed. So that's pretty cool. To me, that's still something to look up to, and don't know if I'll ever beat them. I haven't done that grind in a long time, but it's something that eludes me.
So other than the hit, is there a positive that jumped out of that run, the 4 series, the camaraderie that when you think about it jumps out first?
Yeah, I mean, just forever friendships. I said Alex Burrow's my roommate for 4 straight years. We still talk a ton. Luongo, Kevin Bieksa. I mean, the list goes on. I talked to a ton of guys from that team. Not only from just that cup run, but we spent many years together, right? And those are my closest bonds. And Landon, you've been on a winning team with the Calder Cup, and you when you're on good teams, you build something, and it's something that's forever there. And it's so friendships really is what that showed me. Trevor Linden, again, I look back on these, and I remember. He said that was my first year in the league was Trev's last year, and Trev was an idol of mine because he was a Medhat Alberta boy and broke in. And the first year I played 49 games and I got my MCL sprained and missed the rest of the season. But after that, I remember Trev always talking about and saying, guys, he said to me, I remember saying, don't underestimate how hard it is to get to the playoffs. And I remember at the time kind of thinking, I don't know, it didn't seem that hard. We were a good team, like we put wins together. Well, after that cup run, it was hard, and it is hard to get to that level, let alone, make the playoffs, let alone go into the first round, second round, and beyond. That's something pretty special. So, just so many life lessons, I guess, but the friendships you make as you go to battle and war with those guys day in, day out in practice, but obviously facing other opponents is something I'll cherish.
You mentioned 2 guys. I'll do the positive first. Did you guys knew in the dressing room that Bieksa was going to be on TV at one point?
Juice loves the limelight.
Oh, no, I know. But I mean, some guys you could point at and says, I know what he's doing after he retires.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have pegged him for that, but I mean, he did a great job in the media. Again, he lived in a media market with Vancouver most of his time. And, what I respect about him is he says it like it is. And I think he still does to this day. You can see that Bieksa smirk or whatever he does. It's enjoyable to watch him. He'll do something at the intermission and I'll text him right after. He's always got something smart back to say, but he's been great for the game. I think he does a great job at it, and, happy to see him find a career path post hockey.
Sorry, John, before you move to that one, it's that smirk he has before he says it. He's letting the other people finish, and now you're just like, you're in. You got to
Yeah.
see what he's got to say.
You know it's coming.
Yeah.
And Rick Rypien.
Yeah. Yeah. Rick, it's, man, he's missed. And, Kevin and him were very close as well. And, Rick being an Alberta boy, just south of where I'm currently, a couple hours down in Pincher Creek, Coleman area. And, he's missed, again, pound for pound, what a guy. Like when I look back and just the guys that he would line up against and have zero fear, that lefty side of him, Rick really put himself on the map. I guess he could be one of those guys into the college but he came out of nowhere. And again, who was this guy, right? Got a chance. Geez, he had a fight. I don't know who against, but, started making a name for himself and became a quick fan favorite. So, he's deeply missed. And I think we've all learned a lot from, what he has, or what his family's gone through and what happened there. I mean, to be able to, deal with what Rick's done. I mean, he's opened up, and I love that he's still being honored that level across the NHL, but especially in Vancouver.
Winnipeg and Vancouver have really done an excellent job in keeping the hope of people being able to talk to each other alive, which is what Rick needed. Rick needed to talk to people, and obviously didn't know how.
Here. Even the fans here, you still see Rypien jerseys.
That's awesome.
Rogers, it's awesome.
I think one of the biggest things is asking for help is not a sign of weakness, right? It's a sign of showing strength, actually, and that's one of those big messages where I think it's continued to grow. And again, unfortunate, obviously, with that thing, but I do love that they honor him. And again, he was an impact player, and not only could he throw pound for pound with any guy out there or the biggest guy out there, Rick had a little bit of a unique style to score the odd goal. So pretty cool. It brings a bit of emotion a little bit actually to think about back to Rick in those times. What a great guy.
I understand. So what are you doing now?
Life's busy. I look back at my hockey days and think, geez, it's almost not hockey per se, but life was easier. You're worried about yourself and getting ready and had a family. But I spend most of my time now in the auto business. Run some dealerships here in Cochrane, Alberta. Got some family connections to that. So that takes up most of my time. I also grew up, as I mentioned, on a big farm. So farming's a big part of my roots, big part of my background, and, running a lot of cattle and farming, we're ranching. So between that, a lot of different little companies that kind of arise. I enjoy business. Business has been a big part of my life. Part of the Flames alumni, the Canucks alumni, and others, of course, but I am part of the executive board with the Flames alumni here. So life's busy. I enjoy it. I'm doing a lot on the work side, but at the same time, my kids growing are so quick. My son was born in Vancouver. He's a true Vancouver fan through and through. He's 13 years old. So following him around. My daughter's just turning 11 here in a week. So life's busy. And my wife runs the house, which is fantastic, and looks after us all. But I'm enjoying it. The other side of hockey has been a pretty smooth transition for me. I feel fortunate to have what I have and do what I'm doing, and continuing to grow in that area. Again, this is Trevor Linden again, but Trev said, you retire from hockey an old man, but you hit the real world a young man. And I do feel that. I am 40 now. I've been in the business world here 7 years, but really enjoying it and feel I got many more years ahead of me to continue to work.
So
go for it.
Go, Landon. You go.
I was just going to say, I'm like, speaking good memories and things you're, proud of and all of that. I imagine over your right shoulder is something that you're pretty proud of, 2018. And, I don't see the bronze medal there. I imagine you got that thing up at your house. But, like, what a way to end your career. I mean, you were a point per game player in Bern in the Swiss League, but you got to go there and play, and play with one of your old teammates in Lapierre as well, and win a bronze for your country. How was that to end your career in that way?
Yeah, it's funny. Again, I said this before, things happen for a reason, and my career in my time in Calgary didn't go as planned. To me, that was even when you hit, you matured later and you hit kind of your prime years, if you will, in your later 20s. Now it seems like these guys are hitting their primes, in their early 20s. But I signed a contract in Calgary. Things didn't go as well. Short time in Anaheim, and then my wife was dealing with some health issues. But part of that was going to play in Switzerland, having that opportunity to go over there. And, you actually mentioned I was sent to the minors in Anaheim, and there was more to life at that point. My wife was dealing with some health stuff, and I decided I wasn't going to go down there and play. And she'd given up her whole her career for my career, and so anyway, that took us to Bern, and I went there for many reasons, but got to play that hockey, and then didn't know that the NHL might not go, but it was a possibility, and that was always something in the back of my mind. And it was a unique year because I think we had 7 or 6 or something tournaments leading up to that. Like, we traveled like crazy. We were like, I remember being in Sochi, Russia in early August, right? Doing a pre-camp, and, Spangler Cup was all part of that, and, a bunch of different places. And again, I guess growing up as a Canadian kid, you grew up dreaming about an NHL. At least I did. Dreaming about the Stanley Cup. Little did I know much about an Olympian, probably because I knew if the NHL was going, I wasn't going, I guess. But getting that opportunity to represent was something that was so special for me. Definitely one of the pinnacles of my career. Arguably, and again, we're all watching it right now. It's the best sporting events in the world right now, and what a thrill. I look back at that too, and being in the village, just all that stuff, so cool. But I was lucky enough to, whether we got gold or whether we got last place, I was going back to a hockey career, if you will, right after a team, a job that I had, and seeing certain athletes that had won, they won gold, man, they were so excited. 4 years later, they're going to go for it. But you also saw the defeat side of it, right? And it was like, man, going back to the grindstone and going, hey, I got 4 more years to try to make this again, the next thing. So anyway, the memories from that are so special. My medal is something I cherish, and I keep. And I do keep this one here in my office. It's kind of a cool one, and memories that last forever.
That's got to close a deal or two.
Yeah, that's the hope. That's why it's up there, I guess. No, but people sometimes say, "Where's your Vancouver jersey?" You guys can't see it, but I do have my Flames one in here because we are in the Calgary area, but we have lots of Vancouver fans here. But
you got to
starts
play
a conversation. But yes, and I look back at my career too, and I guess I wish I would have kept more memorabilia. I could see you got your Hockey Night in Canada towel there, and I've kept a bunch, and I got a bunch at home, and I think over here you can kind of see my Olympic stick and a few things. Those are some of the best memories to bring back, and what people want to see and do things. But I did keep all of my game worn jerseys from all the teams I played on, and got them all put up into a jersey frame. And
you did better than I did. This is it. I have 2 jerseys there. I don't have 2 of my game worn jerseys, so you made out pretty good. Feel happy with that.
Well, it's those are the memories. And again, Landon, you know what it's like to be an Olympian as well, right? We kind of joked and said we weren't the best players in the world, but we were the best players at that time outside of the National Hockey League. And again, I really do look back at those memories. I'm sure you've been doing it too, as sooner for you, but scrolling back through and just looking at the opening ceremonies and all those things were just super cool, and doing with some other players, like you said, Max Lapierre, and the list goes on. So it's very proud.
Well, I always said, when people ask about this and playing in the Olympics, and it kind of sounds like you're the same way, but as a kid, I knew I was going to play NHL games. It was just in my head that was going to happen. But as a kid, I knew I wasn't going to play on the Canadian Olympic team. I was not good enough. The team was too good. So because it was kind of the same. I played 1 more year after, but looking back, it was the coolest way to end your life's work in the sport in that sense, and to have that pride, and watching now, like you said, it definitely makes it feel a little different.
Yeah, and for me, I don't know if it was closure to do that. And again, I didn't know going over to Switzerland. I was going over there to play and have another year. But a big part of that was for my wife and just settling our family the way we needed to. But after finishing that, and doing that, and we didn't. This was another thing I was told. It was funny, going out winning a bronze, they say, is sometimes better than not winning a gold, because you end on a winning note, right? So it was pretty cool to end on that note. But after doing that, it's not like I had closure, but I turned down some really good contracts over in Switzerland post that year, right? But for me, again, family was super important. I always started my career with a hockey bag and a suitcase, and away it went. Well, I ended my career with 2 kids, a wife, and many bags. So again, hockey has done so much for me. So proud of that. And, I stepped away from the game when it felt right for me, and, got into the business world, and proud of what I've built here so far.
I'm curious, is your son a good player?
He's it's funny, guys got joke. He's a little different player than I am. He's a defenseman. He is a good little player. He's definitely a good little player. Steady defenseman, can skate well and does all those things. So, Landon, you lived it. It's funny, not his fault or any way you want to look at it, but his dad played in the National Hockey League. And, for me, I want my kids to have the best time. And what I learned from hockey at a young age, but also at the pro age, is, working with a team, having some sacrifice and some discipline to do certain things, and getting up early and going to workouts or skates. And I just think a lot of great things, and the parallels between sport and business are so much. And I see that even more now, being on the other side, employing, hundreds of people. So he's a good little player and continues to want to do it. So that's great. I'm there to support. I coached him for so many years, and now he's at that age where he's into non-parent coaches. So I get to go there and kind of sit back and watch the games and analyze a little more.
I'm curious. What do you tell him? What do you? How do you communicate with him, and on what level?
Sure. My dad is still one of my idols, and a guy I've looked up to in my whole life. And I remember Dad always telling me, there's two things you can control: is your work ethic and your attitude. And again, I always go back on the other side of the game now and saying that applies to hockey. Anything you do, school, you name it. So, those are things that I just always say. I mean, if you can control those every day and work your butt off and do all those little things, good things happen. And in hockey, I was told if you play good hockey, you'll be found. And I think there's so much opportunity. So, I push on him to work his butt off. And I think if you're doing that and play within your capabilities, I think a lot of good things come from it, right? But he likes the game. He enjoys the game, and I'm there to support him in all ways that I can.
You got him on the pond?
Well, besides today, we've been about plus 15 here in the Calgary Cochrane area. So we were supposed to have some charity events recently, actually at some outdoor rinks, and they've been canceled because it's they're pretty soupy. So, but yeah, we get out whenever we can. Again, in today's game, you play. These guys are on the ice all the time. Again, I think back to my Vancouver days. I remember losing out. I think we lost out in the first or second round, and we were in the dressing room, and Pat O'Neill looked over at one of the guys and said, "When do you want your hockey bag? When do you want them shipped to you?" And I think the answer was like, second, third week of August, right? And camp would be September 10th or something. Now these guys take 2-3 weeks off, right? And they're right back at it with skills and skating coaches. And so again, that's how the game's changed. And I think it's changed for the better. It's pretty cool. But the changes and the differences are something pretty neat to reflect on.
Oh, that's awesome. I was just going to say, as you were talking about your son there, at least he was smart enough to pick a different position. I picked the same position. Like, I couldn't get away from it.
Yeah. I bug the exit, all these guys. We said, well, like, all you're worried about is your plus minus as a defenseman. Just get the puck out off the glass. You could still do well and make some good money. So, but, again, the likes of, Quinn Hughes and obviously Cale Makar and just these offensive dynamic guys that can just skate. It's just a pleasure to watch. And not that it's not to have that on forward with McDavid and everybody else and Celebrini, but I don't know why he kind of had that little bit of knack to play D, and I guess you encourage it and can do that. So again, I said earlier, if you can skate, you can almost play anywhere, right? But he seems to enjoy being that anchor back there.
He hasn't hit you with when you're trying to, hey, like maybe you could try this out there. He's like, I've watched some of your games. You didn't skate backwards. Has he hit you with that yet?
Oh yeah, we have some good little fun battles and one-on-ones. And again, so he's a righty. I was always a lefty, so it's harder to teach on that side of the ice or something. But it's fun. Again, the competitiveness, the good things that come from sport are just something that I love and see it continue into everyday life.
Well, and not only that, there is something cool when you think about the highs. Yes, you did get to the Stanley Cup Final. Yes, you do have a bronze medal, and I always find it fascinating that you lose the silver and win the bronze. Mm-hmm. And you're watching the Olympics today, and you can turn and point at number 87 for Canada and say, I got drafted 50 places behind this guy in the same year, and he's still playing.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty. It really is remarkable. There's not many guys still playing the NHL that I played with. Michael Backlund's a good friend here in Calgary, and he signed whenever that was last year. And I said, good for you, because it still makes me feel a little bit younger that I played with you, because he's the last Calgary Flame around. But yeah, Sid, I never got to play with him or do anything like that, but had the same agency as him, so met him a few times. But what a remarkable man, and what he's doing for this sport and Canada in general, right? And it's great to see him, having so much success, not just there, right? He's not just there playing and whatever.
No.
He's having a ton of success and contributing in big ways. So his leadership, obviously, that you don't measure necessarily or you see, but it's going to be huge. And I enjoy watching him. And a guy that, it is kind of neat. Got drafted with and still playing. And here he is chasing a medal in Italy.
Mason, thanks for this.
Guys, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. And, look forward to maybe seeing you around again.
Mason Raymond on this edition of 100% Canucks. Landon and I'll be back after this.
All right, listen up. Today I want to talk about giving 110%. Giving 100% means giving everything you got. Giving 110% means giving 10% more than is humanly possible. If we're going to win as a team, we need 100% of you guys giving 110% 100% of the time. If only 50% of you guys give 110% and 50% of you guys give 100%, I guarantee you 100%, we'd only win 50% of our games. Suppose 75% of the 110% gave only 50%, and 50% of the 100% gave 25%, and 75% of the 110% were not feeling 100%, then we'd be in a heap of trouble. That's why we need 100% of you guys giving 110% 100% of the time. Okay. Let's go out and play some hockey.
Great chat with Mason Raymond, Landon. It looks like he was in your wheelhouse as a Canuck fan.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, my guy was Matt Sundin. I was always a tall kid, and I loved the Leafs, and I'm like, perfect, I'm going to be 6'4", and I'm going to play like Matt Sundin. And then I got a bit older, and I did not quite hit 6'4". And
you got the same haircut, so.
Yeah, I did get that. That's very true. That's nice. Thanks. That's quick. Good job, John.
Well, you know what? I have to jump in sometime. I mean,
no, that was good. I wasn't expecting that. That was a good one.
I'm the old slow guy, so don't worry about it. I can't play, so I have to be able to chirp. If you can't play, you got to be able to chirp, right?
You have to. And especially speaking of chirping, Kachuk's line the other night, just giving it to Draisaitl, always the bridesmaid. Oh, that was one of those, you feel it. I'm laughing and just felt bad at the same time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Me too.
But anyway, with Mason, what drew me to him is a lot of things that, I said it in there, Garland's got a bit of Raymond's game in him as well. It's those guys that you can see every second they're on the ice, there is effort. And they drive, the way that they're creative with the puck, all those tight turns that Mason said he worked on growing up and on the farm and stuff, but using that escapability, his creativity, his speed, watching him on the PK, there was a lot of things in his game that I wanted to bring into mine, and that's why I enjoyed watching him so much. And we were both really good skaters, so that was someone that, you can always, I'd love to be Sidney Crosby, but I don't have those hands. I don't have that skill. Guys like Ryan Callahan, Mason Raymond, there was parts of their games that I really wanted to emulate as much as I could.
Well, I tell you what, I was working at the league at the time, and so watching the Canucks and being in Vancouver, you just marveled at his speed. The one thing that he was very proud of, that he was, and that was at a time when the Canucks, Mike Gillis and Lawrence Gilman and those guys are running the organization. Alain Vigneault was the coach, and they were rebuilding the culture there. They were rebuilding it, and a guy like Mason Raymond, Yannick Hansen, obviously the Twins were there before them, but they were rebuilding it, a winning culture, and Mason Raymond was a big part of that. So it'll be interesting. By the way, the teams, the players that aren't at the Olympics are able to practice now, so it'll be a fascinating start. The games start back on the 25th. And hopefully the team has had a bit of a respite and recharge, and we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, still got some buddies that are still playing, and you'd see all, over the past week or so, you'd see their pictures at different beaches and, kind of having a reset with their families. And then all of a sudden you're seeing the next little Instagram story and they're back in their cities. They're, kind of getting all settled back in to get right back to work. Mid breaks, I never had one this long in a season. But when you do have a longer break, there's so much excitement going into it, knowing that your body's going to get a bit of a break and you can mentally turn off for even a day, right? But then you get a few days into it and you're getting closer to the end. And it's like a school holiday. Like then you start counting down the days, but it's not like school where you're like, oh man, I don't want to go back. You start, okay, like I want to get back to this. I got to get this done. I got to get, like, your brain clicks back to work mode. And before you know it, the last couple of days of your trip, you're having fun, but you got other stuff on your mind and you're ready to get back there.
Well, it'll be fun to watch the rest of the Olympic tournament, and it'll also be fun to see what happens between now and March the 6th with the Canucks, with the way they play and with who's wearing the sweaters after that. Thanks for this, Landon.
Yep, have a good one.
Thanks for listening and watching this edition of 100% Canucks.